Hello everyone, my name is Infinity and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course the law of attraction. In this video, I am going to be sharing with you 3 things that trigger the twin flame runner. In other words, why twin flames run from the runner's perspective. The twin flame runner-chaser dynamic is one of the most challenging and confusing aspects of the twin flame connection. However, many people do not realize that this element to the connection is actually a form of soul-intended healing. And I know that may sound strange at first because as it's going on, through the eyes of the ego, it looks like separation. But I hope that through this video, I can show you that when twin flames trigger each other, what they are truly doing is not triggering each other in order to harm one another, but to contribute to each other's highest soul expansion, to free one another to their highest potential by bringing light to the darkness, to the wounds within the other that are preventing them from expanding into the most authentic, soulful version of themselves. The first thing that causes twin flames to run is, of course, the ego, which is why it heads the list. When we meet our twin flame, we look into one another's eyes and see our authentic soul self reflected back to us. The ego completely crumbles in our twin flame's presence, even within that first meeting. However, very quickly, it can become very scary to experience what we call ego death. And not only this, but because of the massive energetic exchange that takes place between twin flames in this first meeting, there is a spiritual awakening triggered in each of them that causes upheaval and transformation in every area of their lives. Now, as I put it that way, it may sound like a very positive thing, and of course it is through the eyes of the soul. But on a 3D level, this often looks like drastic and even negative changes. Twin flames, after meeting and going through this spiritual awakening, go through a dark night of the soul, a period of time in which the ego is crumbled to the point of what we say dying. And of course, I like to say the ego must die in order to be reborn, because the ego actually is an important part of living this human experience. It just becomes far too dominant. We lose our soul self within the dominance, the control of our ego self, and the two must learn to balance, to live in harmony. We must learn to rebirth our own ego in a way that fuels our soul to build a life, yes, a life that has a material element to it, a 3D element to it, but that is also very soulful and fulfilling. And our twin flame assists us in beginning this process of ego death, rebirth, and building this kind of soulful life. But the actual real-time process of that looks very messy. So oftentimes twin flames run because they become afraid. They associate all of the drastic change, the intense upheaval of their life with this connection with this other person. So the ego says to them, well, if I run from this other person, if I disconnect in the 3D from this person, then maybe I can stop all of these changes from happening, which of course these changes are inevitable because this is more than a connection of love and romance. This triggering of spiritual awakening was divinely intended by our higher selves. So we cannot stop this process of change, but the ego sometimes likes to believe that we can. So we may run, we may try to avoid this person or this connection to try to avoid our own spiritual growth and expansion. And besides this, as these changes are happening, because of all the new energy processing through us after meeting a twin flame, sometimes it is just far too intense and we aren't capable of processing all of this intense energy while in their presence. It can feel as though it is just too much. And so on a higher level, sometimes when a twin flame runs, this is actually a divinely intended period of separation in order for that person to heal, to process these new energies from their twin flame, to expand and clear themselves to the point where they are capable of being in their twin flame's physical presence without feeling so much overwhelming emotion and energy that is quite literally knocking them over. Now, the second reason that twin flames run is because of a karmic wound or pattern. Twin flames trigger each other by bringing to light wounds, often very ancient wounds. Sometimes these are wounds that have been dormant for many, many lifetimes, that are very, very old, that are eternal to our soul, that may have happened a lifetime that was lived hundreds of years ago, that was never dealt with, that continued to play out over and over in every life since. And only in this lifetime is it finally ready to be brought to the surface of our consciousness in order to be healed and transcended. The twin flame path is one of the highest paths that a soul can choose because of this triggering, because you knew, and if your twin flame is running, even they knew on a soul level prior to incarnating that you would trigger one another, that you would cause one another to consciously acknowledge and bring to the surface these deep level wounds in order to heal them. And you knew that this process would be at times painful and at times absolutely terrifying. You knew that because of how terrifying and painful the process is, that at times one or both of you would run in the 3D, would try to escape the connection. But you also knew that ultimately these wounds would be healed and transcended through your connection. It's worth noting that this pattern I speak of, this karmic pattern, may not be what you traditionally think of as a pattern. Yes, it could very well be a form of subconscious mind programming, a way you were raised to believe that you weren't worthy of unconditional love or connection. Negative thoughts and ideas handed to you by society or by your parents, or handed through generation after generation, that told you you weren't worthy, you weren't lovable, that you weren't safe to express yourself authentically, soulfully. Any of these kinds of negative beliefs will be triggered by your twin flame in order to be healed and shifted. However, this karmic pattern could also come in the form of a person. Sometimes we feel as though we're falling in love with a person, but what's truly happening is we're falling in love with a pattern, specifically with a karmic pattern. This tends to happen most frequently to the so-called twin flame runner who is connecting with a third party. So if you are the so-called chaser and your twin flame runner is connecting with a third-party romantic connection, know that this person they are attracted to and connecting with is very often a pattern that they are healing, a pattern that they are still attracted to. Because what many people don't understand is attraction is entirely energetically based. This is why psychologists will often say that we will be attracted to partners who treat us the way that our parents treated us. Because if our parents mistreated us or didn't love us in the way we deserved to be loved, we will continue to feel an attraction to romantic partners in adulthood who play out our patterns, our wounds, until, and this is the key point, until we consciously choose to participate in our own self-healing and transcend these patterns. So if you or your twin flame are still finding yourself connecting with a romantic third party, this means there is some kind of pattern you are being attracted to that must be healed. I have created a twin flame 7-chakra clearing subliminal designed to do just this, to uproot and clear away any negative subconscious patterns, including those we just spoke of, the patterns that are handed to you from society or from your parents, but also patterns that are passed down from generation to generation. These patterns, although at times we may be unconscious of them, become stuck within our energy field, and specifically within one of the 7 main energetic centers of the body that we refer to as the 7 chakras. So this chakra clearing subliminal is so powerful because it contains binaural beat frequencies, 7 frequencies designed to retune each of the 7 chakras to their natural state of being. And simultaneously, this track includes embedded unconscious affirmations, nearly 100 of them, with several affirmations targeted to each of the unique specific 7 chakras, with the purpose of completely shifting and balancing the energy within each of these 7 chakras, and with the ultimate purpose of allowing that natural magnetism between you and your twin flame to flow, to naturally bring you together in the 3D physical world, or to deepen your connection. To try out this subliminal completely free for 7 days, as well as any of the more than 100 subliminals I've created for all areas of life, you can sign up for a 7-day free trial account on my website, Sound and Soulful. More information about this chakra clearing subliminal is in the pinned comment and the description box of this video. Now, the third way that twin flames trigger each other, and the third reason that the twin flame runner runs, is actually because of the unconditional love running between twin flames. Society has trained us very far away from the idea of unconditional love, love that sees no boundaries or barriers physically, love that knows no limitations, be it a difference in appearance, in age, in social background, a love that recognizes no faults as being too difficult to love, too difficult to handle. And I feel that many of you had parents who really wanted you to shove down or to hide certain characteristics about yourself, because in one way or another, your parents signaled to you that these traits were unlovable or made you less lovable. So when your twin flame comes along and shows you true, unconditional, authentic love, oftentimes you won't be able to fully recognize it or feel it as love. And the same goes for your twin flame, because what you are used to, what you are accustomed to feeling or associating with the word love isn't truly pure, unconditional love. It is love with strings attached. It is love based on constructions of the ego. It is love based on what we call physical compatibilities or similarities, and all of those ideas become deconstructed within the twin flame connection. And in fact, this is a very key component of the twin flame purpose more generally, to transcend these perceived ego-constructed boundaries and barriers in order to transcend them not only individually, but collectively, to radiate a beacon of unconditional love that ripples outward to every other soul in this giant web of interconnected human consciousness. So when twin flames show each other unconditional love, they feel very seen and vulnerable in each other's presence. And sometimes this can trigger a kind of fear in the twin flame runner because they feel that their shadow elements are being fully seen and understood by this other person, when in fact they may not even be prepared to see and embrace these shadow elements themselves. And what I mean by shadow elements are what we call the shadow self. Any part of ourself that we have repressed for so long that it becomes absorbed in the subconscious, that it is no longer within the light of our consciousness, so to speak, and therefore becomes what we call the shadow self. But your twin flame loves you for not just what your ego understands to be you, but that constructed self plus the shadow self, which combined we could refer to as the authentic self, the holistic self, you with all of your shadow elements integrated. So I hope this video helped to give you some perspective to understand why twin flames so often feel triggered within the connection and why they run, and how this is actually a portal to deeper level healing and transcendence within the twin flame connection and along our own individual spiritual awakening and spiritual path in this lifetime. If I resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel. In this community, I strive to build a virtual space in which like-minded spiritual beings can connect with one another, can share their experiences in this life and feel seen, heard, and understood. So if that resonates with you, please subscribe and join our community here. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself, where I post high vibrational content to keep your vibration up all day long. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again in the next podcast.